For many young men and women around the world, university education is seen as a birthright. Then there are those that have to fight their entire lives for it. They are helping change the face of Australian universities. No longer the bastion of the middle class and privileged, certain universities now actively seek a diverse student body. Their classes are full of young people with astonishing stories. For these students, tertiary education is a genuine game changer, offering an opportunity to change their lives no matter their background.
With this one, they're going to pay cash.
Maisie Wynne is president of the Karenni Society of Australia and works tirelessly to help displaced members of this minority Burmese group.
He's like a bridge between his community and the wider Australian community, and that's a really important role.
I think he might consider like he has to be a lot more educated because a lot of people depend on him.
Striving his entire life for a university education has given Maisie the ability to effect real change for his people. His education journey begins 30 years ago in a rural Burmese village. Born to subsistence farmers in one of the poorest parts of Southeast Asia.
Sometimes now, when I think about life back there, I thought it was very tough, you know. Most of the family don't have enough rice to eat. Relatively, everyone in the village, they're poor. Children, when they are the age of 5, everyone have to work. So as a child, the parent normally asks them is to fetch water.
From a young age, Maisie's father saw something special in his youngest son. So did everything possible to set him on a different trajectory.
From the age of 8, then I went to school, and then I decided that I don't want to work in the farm. I prefer going to school.
Maisie's father saw firsthand his son's enthusiasm for learning. The problem was the village-run school was only up to grade 2 level. Continuing his education wasn't going to be easy.
So my parents decided to send me to next village. They call Bugo village. You have to walk 3 hours from my village. I was in the school from grade 3 to grade 7, and every year in the final exam, I would normally get number 1. When you come back, you see the other villagers or other parents, they look happy. They say, oh, you are good in school, you're always in number 1.
But at the time, the Burmese dictatorship had a very different view of students. Life in Burma was about to be turned upside down.
In 1988 in Burma, there was a big student uprising, and then in that year, a lot of students were killed by the dictatorship. Very often, the Burmese army came into my village. But I thought that because I was just a child, they have nothing to do with me.
Unfortunately, Maisie was wrong. Being young and educated, he was targeted by Burmese soldiers looking to weed out rebel sympathizers. One morning, with his parents already in the field, Maisie was confronted by Burmese troops.
And then I saw 2 Burmese army with their guns, what he had made, and my sister asked me, have you seen the Karenni rebel? I said no. Then he asked me, do you want to join Karenni Rainbow when you grown up? I said no. I mean, I have seen Karenni Rainbow coming to our village often, but I know that if I tell them the truth, they will ask more questions. And if I can't answer, or if I didn't give the answer, then they will start to torture me or beat me. So my sister asked them, what do you want to do with him? And then they told my sister, we want to use him as a porter. And then they grabbed me on my chest. Yes, very frightening, but there's nothing much that we could do. Nobody can do anything. Yeah.
Carrying a bag full of heavy ammunition under such oppressive heat and through such dense terrain was a walk that most grown men would struggle to complete, let alone a small boy.
So very often then I will get, I will fall down. And at the moment, every time I fall down, they kick. They started to kick my back. There's a thought that I might never come back.
Maisie's parents had no idea what was happening and whether they'd see their kidnapped son ever again. The kidnap trek continued for another exhausting week.
At 11 o'clock at night time, I could hear two gunfire, and that some of the soldiers who slept beside us run toward the sound. And then a few minutes later, they came back, and then they told us that two porters tried to escape or to run away, and that the soldiers shot them.
There were many times Maisie felt he would not be able to go on and have to face the ruthless consequences of the soldiers.
If a porter gets too tired or get too sick and could not carry any longer, then normally what they would do is that they would just kill them. Maybe I never see my mother again. So every time when I have this kind of feeling that I will feel very sad, and that I almost lost kind of hope of that.
Through determination and courage, Maisie was able to get through.
They started to call out the porter's name. They told us that tomorrow you can go back. Maybe a few days I will see my mom again. So it was very happy.
The joy of the family homecoming was short-lived for Maisie. Constant fighting between the rebels and government had meant all local schools had been closed. There was only one way he could continue his education.
If I stay in my village or in that area, then I wouldn't have a chance to go back to school. So then when we decided to leave our village for refugee camp.
This time, Maisie's entire family would make the sacrifice for his education. His parents leaving their village for a life in a virtual prison.
Some people call it concentration camp. In refugee camp, you don't have a generator, you don't have electricity, kind of just a basic toilet. We don't have tissue there, so we use stick. Yeah, we live and then hope that maybe someday, if there's an opportunity, then I can leave the camp.
The appalling living conditions, combined with everything he'd gone through, made Maisie realize that he wanted to apply his education to improve the plight of his people.
In Burma, nobody knew about human rights. And that's the first time when I heard about women's rights, human rights, environmental rights, this kind of words,
And you came and visit us, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah.
It was around this time Maisie met his teenage sweetheart, who would later become his wife.
You're pretty, so yeah, like,
Really?
any teenage boy, when you see a beautiful girl, you always want to,
Yeah.
Somehow, yeah, I had the feeling that, maybe, yeah, she's gonna be my future girl. So things like that,
Did you feel like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that day when I first saw you. thought you are a gentleman.
I'm happy to hear now, but you should say it before.
Yet Maisie had more than love on his mind. After over a decade of diligent study, he was offered a university placement.
They pick people, refugee students who they believe has a bright future or doing well in school. So I was selected as one of them.
The problem was, any education outside the camp required a passport, which Maisie didn't have.
And that's when the people who work in their course, they try to organize organize a kind of a fake Burmese passport for us, so we can take this course and then continue our studies. If you get caught with this fake passport in Thai law, 1 year to 10 years in jail. As far as there's opportunity, then I will do.
Now free from the camp, Maisie had excelled in his political science studies, becoming a leading figure for students seeking democratic change.
Every week, we organize a kind of protest in front of the Burmese embassy in Bangkok. And they were also interviewed by the different TV channel, the BBC. Yeah, so I was involved in that kind of activities.
Maisie's prominence in the uprising was putting him in the spotlight of the Burmese dictatorship. It wasn't long before they tipped off the Thai authorities about his fraudulent passport.
They told me that my passport is fake. I insisted that my passport is a real one. I know there's a fake one, but I couldn't say that it's a fake because otherwise I will go to jail. I have to leave. I have to leave back home in the next morning. Yeah, so I ended up in a refugee camp again. I was very upset, and then I thought that now my dream come to an end.
Maisie's predicament in Thailand and Burma was dire. Facing the prospect of imprisonment if caught outside the camp, Maisie's only option was to apply for refugee status. He chose Australia.
So now I have my own family, my parents and my sister. They are with me here. So, life almost complete for me now. And once again, I feel like I have a future.
So after struggling for nearly 25 years, Maisie was finally free to complete his education.
I'm a free man now. For my future, whether very good, it depends on myself. I had the opportunity here.
He applied and was accepted into the Victoria University Master's Program. Maisie has not only excelled academically, but he has had a significant and lasting impact on fellow students and teachers.
It's a real privilege to work with students like Maisie because they bring such enormous wealth of life experience. And if the opportunity came for him to do some teaching, for example, he would be someone I think who would do that extremely well.
Cheers!
Hey,
Here's to you, Jerry.
hold on.
Well, thank you everyone for all your support.
If someone was to sum up the word inspirational in the dictionary, I'd say your name would definitely be underneath it. So, if there was a lot more people could actually take the risk that you've done, and, congrats to you, and all the best.
Mate, thank you.
I love you.
Weeks away from completing his honours in psychology, Adam has already achieved so much.
Gotta get a bit more here.
Okay, but as long as you don't go below your wrist,
No,
because you're going
alright.
to be a doctor.
I didn't know he had those kind of ambitions, and that's what he wanted to strive for. And certainly if you sort of said where we are now, who could imagine that? Who could predict that?
Yet Adam's story is not your typical uni journey. This story starts a quarter of a century ago in a small English village.
I was always the quiet kid. I was always the kid that had a few friends and just sort of made my way like that, and I was happy with that.
He was always, I would say, an average
student. He was never bottom of the class. He was always in a good grade. Teachers would say to me, you know, he can apply himself more. He's got it.
The school was very much a, you know, it was a working class community in a sense, and it was kind of, you know, boys acted one way, girls acted one way. I guess I started to become more out there in my personality, and I started, you know, how I would be in my friendship group. I started just being all the time. And people started kind of picking up that, oh, this dude's quite, you know, flamboyant in a sense, or he's quite expressive. And it was kind of not the norm. So it just started to develop into, you know, just some backhanded sort of insults. They'd just be like, oh, look at the queer over there with the gel in his hair.
That sickening feeling that your child isn't liked or is being disapproved of in some way is quite hard for a parent to sort of accept, because you just think your kiddie's the best kiddie in the world, you know.
It just happened to be at the same time that it was happening, that personally I was also going through my own sort of journey as in discovering myself too.
Adam began to accept his sexuality, but at the same time, he knew his classmates must never find out.
For someone at such a young age to be going through it, you need to, I just needed someone else to know. I needed someone else to, in a way, say, oh, that's okay, that's cool, you know, and to sort of share that part of me with someone. Told one of my closest friends, and she was completely okay with it. She was really supportive of it. And we had a great friendship, you know, that was fantastic. But then, you know, a day came where we had a big argument and a big fight, and being silly teenagers, she went off and told a whole group of people. All of a sudden, I'm sitting in class, and then there's a stampede of were friends on top of me, screaming at me, pushing me, screaming. I just ran home, which wasn't far away from the school. And then when I got home, obviously, you know, I just cried and cried and cried, because all of a sudden, I just witnessed everyone that was closest to me completely against me all of a sudden. And
he's done nothing wrong, so why was he getting bullied? I couldn't understand.
Mum and Dad both turned around to me and said, you know, there's something else you're not telling us, and, you know, you tell us when you're ready. The thought of telling my parents, even though they've always been so supportive of everything, was just, I just wasn't ready.
Yeah, I think we unconsciously knew, but we didn't know, and so but it wasn't a shock.
In the meantime, I was getting text messages saying, you know, if I was you, I wouldn't come back, and others saying you shouldn't come back. If you come back, you're going to get beat up, and all this sort of thing. And I knew that I couldn't be in the same exam hall as everyone else, waiting at the front, leaving with them, you know, just I didn't feel safe.
It is a helpless feeling as a parent. You just want to take it away from them, do it for them, but you have to then keep them going and push them out there, and sort of, this is life, you've got to face it. And we kept letting him face it, and we asked him to face it. But each morning I dropped him off, I felt completely sick all day.
So for the rest of the week I was in isolation as such, that I would be escorted with a teacher to an exam hall that was my own, purely for safety reasons. It did feel like a bit of a prison.
And then the time came where I knew he couldn't face it anymore.
Mum drops me off at the school gate, and there's no teacher at the gate. And then my sort of form group that I was in see me at the gate, and it was like something out of a movie where, you know, they've all just pointed and started screaming, and then started kind of stampeding at me. So I've just turned around and ran out the gate again. And then like a movie scene. Next thing, Mum's come screeching up in the car, flung open the passenger door.
As a parent, I just couldn't let him do it anymore. You know, I just, nah, you're not going back there. In the car.
And she's just gone, get in, you're not going back.
Adam missed almost 6 months of school before he could be re-enrolled. Time at his new school only lasted a matter of months before his family moved to Australia for a fresh start.
Within 2 weeks then, I was going to high school again. I just wanted to get friends again. You know, I'd gone for so long with literally no friends.
I guess you could say we were like Thelma and Louise. We were inseparable.
I was not interested at all in doing any work at school.
It wasn't the fact that he wasn't academic, it's just that we didn't care. We weren't there to, we weren't interested in school. My grades dropped. His grades never really started when we were at school because he wasn't interested. We just were there to have fun and he was there to make friends and that's what happened.
By the end of year 10, it was, the similar type of pattern was happening again. It was kind of that stereotype again, well, guys don't really act like that. Like, that's a bit, and all his friends are girls and silly set stereotypes that carry with it. And then the comments started starting.
There was a stage where he did say that I think he was running to the school bus and people were throwing rocks at him and that sort of thing. It got physical.
By that point, I was exhausted with school. It just wasn't something that was important to me anymore. And I thought, well, you can leave school in Australia.
I basically told him, and so did his dad, we just said, nah, you're not going to leave school and do nothing. If you want to leave school, I want you to think carefully about what avenue you want to go down, and you need a trade.
At the end of year 10, after a fractured education with 3 high schools across 2 continents, Adam left school.
I ended up pursuing an apprenticeship in hairdressing.
How did you actually get into hairdressing, Adam?
Well, I'd started hairdressing when I was 15.
Oh, wow. I didn't realise you started so young.
We moved here from England, and then I just didn't enjoy it, and I thought, you know what, I want to go and do something creative. I was always really creative.
Over the next 7 years, Adam forged a brilliant hairdressing career.
Awesome at what he does, and his clients love him, and he's got a very good relationship with most of his clients.
But there was a nagging doubt of what else might be out there.
I'd realised that, wow, this is it. I've done it all. I've built my career, I've done my training, I've got the place I wanted to be, and then what's next? What's the next step? And I think I just wasn't ready just to say, this is it for the rest of my life. Well, how about I just apply for uni? And I think I went into it thinking that I won't get an offer, so I'll never have to deal with the situation that I get a place.
With nothing to lose, Adam began to apply to unis around the state. With no high school education, he was met with incredulity from most institutions.
I was sort of put into this category that, oh, well, you didn't finish high school, so how would you finish a university course? And even if you did get in, you'd probably struggle a fair bit. And
there were definitely clients that you could tell that they were a bit like, I don't know how it'll go.
But it actually made me a little bit more determined to kind of go, well, you know what, I will give it a go.
Adam continued to tirelessly speak to institutions and eventually was offered what he wanted, a psychology degree at Victoria University.
When he actually got his offer and he looked it up on the computer, and I think I was more excited than him. He just sort of sat there in disbelief, and I was yelling and running around, and I'm like, are you going to get excited about this? But he was just in shock. He didn't have that, I think, self-belief that he could achieve it or that he was going to achieve it.
Obviously, it was disbelief. It was the initial thought was that it was a mistake. That I think actually they've given me someone else's offer. And then this kind of excitement came where I was just so, I was calling everyone going, oh, I'm in uni, I got in. It was just such an exciting time.
But the joy was tempered with the harsh reality of facing university with only year 10 schooling.
I said, I'll give you 6 weeks. I said, 6 weeks, it's too hard, you don't even know how to write an essay, how are you going to do this? You know, and as much as I wanted to support him and I wanted to, you know, be there when he fell, I thought he was going to fall. I thought, you're not going to do this, you know, you hated school, we didn't want to be there.
And, you know, coming to write my first essay, I had no idea how to structure anything. I'd never really written anything before.
You know, you take for granted what people not in that area are aware of. So to come into it and try to learn things without that kind of formal year 11 and 12 structure, especially for psychology, because it's quite linked with year 12, amazing. Nothing short of amazing.
I just remember that first few weeks, it was just this constant thing of going, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know, there's all these words coming out at me. Like the terminology, like I kept having to go back to a dictionary just trying to figure out what they are talking about before actually learning about what was going on. I printed the deferral forms and I had them sitting there and I'm just like,
really?
Okay, they're here and I can maybe just take some time out to try and figure out, is this what I really want to do? I'm capable of doing it.
I had a lot of moments where I'd just be tearing my hair out, crying, stressed, you know, just to get through. And I thought, for a very brief time, that maybe those that told me and warned me that, you know what, it's probably a bit beyond your scope of knowledge and beyond your capability, that maybe they had a point.
Just, I'm like being, it's just really complex. And then, you know, especially you guys, going, just push yourself. You've always pushed yourself. Just go to the end of the semester. If it doesn't work,
yes,
you can walk away and say, well, I tried it, and you've tried something and there's no harm in trying.
You could see that in him at the start. He just had a thirst for knowledge, was eager to learn, and he just, he wanted it more than anything.
He has a never say die mentality. I can give him any task. I can give him a mammoth chapter or a really difficult concept and say, okay, by next week I need you to get this down so we can build on it. Yep.
I just studied and, you know, all I remember is just reading and writing frantically notes all the time, as many things as I could, drawing pictures, making songs up, dancing, things like that, just to try and get it in my mind.
When he first started uni, he asked me to, you know, proofread his work and help him out with that. Now, most of it's a bit beyond me. I thought I got to that stage, I'm like, I don't understand what you're writing anymore.
This dogged determination saw Adam blossom in the degree.
And then that's when I came out with like this awesome marks and grades. And then it was just kind of like, wow, that's a fluke.
But I don't think he was aware of just how great he was and what we thought of him.
By the end of his third year, he had achieved an extraordinary 23 high distinctions out of 24. Best undergrad student and Dean Scholar.
And it was this crazy moment of like, whoa, what is this? Like, why have I got like the top grades? And then a week later, I got a phone call from Victoria University saying, we'd love to offer you a high achievement scholarship.
Gabe Ewan is on the cusp of completing an undergrad degree that has changed the course of his and his family's life.
Okay. So you need to demonstrate.
He has overcome extraordinary obstacles just to sit in a lecture theatre. He couldn't possibly have imagined this reality as a young boy growing up in rural South Sudan.
My parents were nomad. They based their economy on cattle, but no money.
So each and every child has to make sure you look after cows, you look after goat. So Gabe was actually one of those kids.
Cattle is not only for consumption, they also play crucial roles for living, and also they use for paying dowries if you want to get married. If you don't have cows, it's hardly to get married according to our culture.
Even though life was tough and there were constant dangers, young Gabe was a happy kid.
My parents, they have to taught me how to protect myself and also how to protect my animals. You have spears, arrows, yes, those mostly you got. Couple times you come around crocodiles, lion, buffalo, yes, we scared. And definitely you run and hide. But we are connected to the land. You'll be thinking by yourself in the forest, singing a song of your bulls. I think it's the best movement, I think, in my life, which is really great.
Yet Gabe's childhood didn't involve any structured schooling at all.
Or in our family, and none of us went to school. All our life is on cattle. You don't move away. Cattle are everything. The school that we had is that the elders, they sit down, they tell you oral stories, they tell you narratives, the dances, they pass down the traditions.
Gabe was about 10 when civil war broke out in 1983 between the Muslim government regime and Christian rebels.
The government soldiers and militias attacked the villages, so everyone ran away.
As a child, Gabe had no idea how much this war would change his life.
The death is on your doorstep. So when we ran away, you saw the kids were killed, the bullet missed you, and your relatives are dying on the way. You know you are next. My parents, my siblings, they ran on their own. You don't know where they are, and you don't know who's alive and who's dead.
The conflict claimed almost 2 million lives across Sudan. It had wiped out almost all of Gabe's village. So without knowing it, he became a member of the Lost Boys of Sudan.
The SPLM soldiers in that area control us, and they move us together to Ethiopia. I would imagine that was like, we were thinking it's 1 week journey, but no. We were thinking it's 1 month, no, more than that.
Faced with unimaginable hardship, Gabe was determined to do whatever it took to survive.
One of the things making the journey quite horrible was the age. We were all kids from 11 down. So if you imagine those age were actually quite hard for kids to go through.
Sometimes you travel without water and foods, and many people died because of hunger. And also you will experience hostility from other tribes on the way, because they're strangers, they don't know who are these people. And you're thinking of your parents, you're thinking of your uncle, you're thinking of your aunt. You don't know where they are. It was really terrible, yeah.
In southern Sudan, the situation continues to deteriorate.
My mom died, same my dad. It's indescribable. I don't have a proper word that can say this was my feeling.
But when we left our villages and went to Ethiopia, it even, bring us together and make us remain as one family.
We make sure no one left behind. We make sure we help one another so that we can get where we are going.
One of the good things he is good at is to make sure anyone get hurt around him is comforted.
You have to maintain that attitude of positivity, regardless of what had happened.
After 3 treacherous months walking across 2 countries, Gabe and the Lost Boys finally reached Ethiopia.
We try to forget what had happened in the past. We start to go back to normal life, do daily activities. We feel a bit happy, yeah.
But the sanctuary of the camp would only be short-lived. A civil war in Ethiopia meant that South Sudanese refugees became the target of the rebels.
They want the South Sudanese to leave immediately. And if they are not leaving, they are there at their own risk.
Gabe's life was once again in danger.
The rebels were running after us, and they start shooting everyone. Many people died.
After another close brush with death, Gabe again miraculously survived and made his way with fellow refugees to the camps of Kenya.
To me, I said, maybe we have a curse or something. Why is it our ancestors are not happy with us? Why is it thing happening to us all the time?
So I think there are some people who, in the face of difficulty, they can buckle. There are some people who get strong. It's just, I think, a human trait.
Gabe knew there was only one thing that could change his life trajectory.
So when I came to the refugee camp, I realized, yeah, education must be the good one. Because we don't have cattle. What are you going to do again? You must have cattle to live on. If you don't have, you better have education. To open my life again, education is the key.
Gabe's commitment to education would be tested in such harsh living conditions.
Our situation was refugee camp, so it's just what is available is what we have.
Kakuma camp was overcrowded, had limited food and oppressive weather.
So when you are in grade 1, we were taught on the soil. You have to go and write A in the soil until you know how to write it properly.
It is extraordinary to find somebody who definitely knows that I'm up against something here, but I want to do it all the same. That, yes, does make him an extraordinary guy.
In Kakuma, it's entirely on you to go to school. No one will force you to do that. So I was determined to learn.
And after 10 years of learning, Gabe knew where it was he wanted to go to create a new life.
Australia is the place of opportunities, and I said, yes, that is my place.
And Australia agreed.
When you are given that letter that you are accepted, you are more happy. You celebrate.
He's come to Australia, which has given him opportunity. Yes, he's been through hardship. Yes, the hurdles were horrendous. But I think he also looks ahead and says, when I'm here in Australia, Australia offers me these opportunities. It's my choice now whether I make use of them or I lose them.
Yet Gabe's dream to pursue his education had to be put on hold for the time being, as his relatives at home required his immediate financial support.
What I would like to do is that to get some little money, buy a computer, and buy basic things for myself, and then get back to schools. But I get to learn that there are relatives that are in desperate need, and I said, God, I'm the only one here. I need to help them. So I said, I better work, support them, then I will go back to school later. Yeah.
Gabe threw himself into farming and factory work and earned enough to support his family at home and raise a dowry to marry his girlfriend from the camp, Mary. It wasn't long before she would come to Australia, and after starting a family, finally Gabe focused again on fulfilling his education aspirations. Yet with English as a third language and only rudimentary schooling behind him, the gulf to academia was massive.
It's not like normally writing, no. You have to write in academic way.
By the time he got to VU, I remember thinking that he didn't seem like his English was up to scratch.
The learning environment is different. Here, you have to be prepared, studying, read, write your notes, and then do your assignments. Back home, we are not familiar with this tertiary learning.
There are 3 positions, normally, which show where you are in your study. First days that I met him, I could see that Gabe is a very determined guy to study. And I could tell that Gabe has some challenges, but this guy is really determined to study. He knows what he wants to get, and he will not be stopped by anything, so he will come.
And it's a testament to Gabe's real ambition to challenge himself and to be the best student, person, figure he can be.
So much so that Gabe has become one of the most popular, successful students in his course.
That is mathematics, English, biology, chemistry, physics,
Wow.
religion.
All of that in the camp?
Yeah.
Were there large classes?
Yeah, it's not easy. You get 70, 80 people in the class.
I couldn't even imagine going through such an epic journey, and now you're here and you're at uni and you're doing all these amazing things. You're such a happy soul, Gabe.
Yeah, often life
No one would know.
is how you manage your attitudes, you know, and to ensure you better have hope than not having a hope. You know?
I think if you live through such inequality, one of the best things you can do from that is want to try and change it. So that's what Gabe's drive is, I think. Yeah.
But when the workers have differences with the employer, this is where now you are in contention.
And create change he has. Working as a union delegate, Gabe has been instrumental in resolving several workplace issues.
Gabe is just one of those people that really does light up the room when he comes in. Whether you're having the best day or the worst day of your life, when Gabe walks in you can't help but smile just because of his presence there.
I think the only reason that we could have gotten this work done is because of the experience that you've had as a union member and as a workplace delegate.
The underlying values that are there is about always seeking ways to improve people's lives.
Always you have those legacy of what had happened to you, both negative and positive. But the important thing is that is to make those memos to be strengths, to be your strengths. I'm really proud. Always this dream that education is a key to life. Will pave the way, is a passport, will unlock some of the challenges there.
His colleagues predict Gabe's extraordinary trajectory will continue 2 decades after he began walking towards his future.
He can go far, certainly. He could be a prime minister, who knows, in South Sudan someday. He certainly has the heart. He got a big heart.
Well, sometimes I tease him and tell him that he should be Australia's next PM, and he just laughs. He just laughs at me. But I still think that there's a chance.
Never give up your dream. Don't let them shatter. Yeah.
Today, as well as hairdressing, Adam lectures to first years, only 4 years after starting his journey.
When did this all happen? When did I become this academic that gets all these awards and gets all these opportunities and does all this work?
From where we were 16 years ago to now is just, unreal. I look at him and I'm just so proud. I'm such a proud friend.
I think it's really inspirational to everyone, what he's done, because it just shows that if you put your mind to something that you want to do and if you want to change, it's not so scary to do it and you should just jump.
Adam is days away from finishing a groundbreaking honours thesis and has been invited to study for a PhD at Victoria University.
He's just going to achieve so much in the next, 5, 10 years. He'll have lots of opportunity and people will want to work with him.
He really could go and put a stamp on any area that he is passionate about, and I think he'd make an impact on the world stage, without a doubt.
But very proud, massively. He makes my heart burst with pride.
It's so exciting. This opportunity could change my life forever. I have no idea where I'm going to be in 2, 3, 4 years.
Maisie, Adam and Gabe have fought their entire lives to realise their education. Their stories represent the new face of Australian universities.
Maisie Wynne.
When when I look back, what happened to me, it's in the past. Every time when I had a difficulty, I become a more struggle. I feel very proud of what I have achieved so far.
This master's grad now looks to give his daughter a life that he and his parents could have only dreamed. Education has given them the potential to not only transform their own lives and those of their family, but create positive change for many, many others.